This is Game On, discussing the biggest games and all the latest sports news with Johnny Montalbano and Hank Indictor on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Welcome to a new episode of Game On the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Hank Indictor, Nick Morgasen, episode 41. Okay, you're probably wondering, Johnny hasn't been here in like 3 weeks. Everything's okay. Just want to make sure everyone knows he's okay. He didn't have a panic attack about the Knicks or something, or, well, we might have a panic attack about the Knicks organization and their owner.
Johnny is the last person I would expect to have a panic attack over that team. He's pretty mild-mannered.
That's a good point. You're right. He's probably the most mild-mannered out of all of us who do sports shows on this network.
Me, on the other hand, when I talk about the Rangers, I've probably blown many a gasket over those blue guys on ice.
That's a good point. Follow the show on social media at Game On ETB, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at ETB Network. Make sure you follow the website where guys like Hank and others do blogs, etbpodcast.com. If you're looking for the blog section, just add /blog to this. If you're looking for blogs, what was the latest couple you've done? We have one that's getting ready to go up on Bobby Hall. That's coming very soon.
Yeah, it's pretty much going to talk about why I think even though it's important to recognize him as an elite hockey player and one of the greats and probably one of the biggest game changers in the history of the sport, he was also a real monster. And that's kind of putting it mildly. And I think you can't overlook that when talking about his legacy, because he did some of the things he did. Ugh.
You know what's interesting, though, and you just gave me another blog idea as we're sitting here recording an episode. Athletes who are big time, like the best of their sport, but they've had issues along the way. So like a Tiger Woods.
Yes, that's perfect.
Or, I mean, you could even throw Michael Jordan in there. I mean, he didn't have as many issues, but there has been...
Oh, his are small potatoes compared to Bobby Hull. Funny, I mentioned two of the biggest stars in Chicago sports. Oh,
yeah, it's a good point. But we'll talk about blog ideas later. But we have a lot to get into. A lot of NFL news.
Also, spoiler, I have a Brady blog coming up eventually.
So. Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, we're going to get to him. Don't you worry. We're going to get to him this episode. But Tom Brady retires again. We will get to that news, and ironically did it on the same day that he did it last year. Is that irony? We'll talk about it. Also, Saints and Broncos make a trade for Sean Payton. Now, you don't know this opinion about that I've said in the past. I don't like trades for coaches. I do not like trades for coaches. It's bizarre and ridiculous. And all that nonsense. And also, we'll talk about how DeMeco Ryans being hired as the Texans head coach has to do with the Broncos. Yes, I said that correctly. It has to do with the Broncos. So the stories are tied into one another.
Trades for coaches has only really worked once that I can think of. And even then, you could argue that the team that won that trade suffered some... shall we say long-term consequences as a result of it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Also, we'll get into the coaching carousel in the NFL, including a certain hack ending up in our region of the country. And
your old team.
My old team. Also, we'll get into Aaron Rodgers and the drama that is Aaron Rodgers. And to finish it all off, we have to talk about James Dolan, because why not? By the way, also, By the way, it was great seeing you in person for the first time when you came down for my
that
birthday.
was awesome. I'm so glad I got to finally meet you. You knew it was going to happen eventually because, like, out of everyone, I think me and Tom are like in the network are the ones that live like the closest to you. Well, Tom more so than I do because I live in Westchester and
it was a hike.
But hey, I still did it. And
no, I give you a lot of credit. You drove down from Westchester to Long Island. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And we talked about the James Dolan story in person. So you and I have a lot to talk about with that. But all right, let's go. Let's talk about the big news. Yes, Tom Brady retires again on February 1st. Gee, doesn't that sound familiar from February 1st, 2022, but now it's 2023?
You know, imagine if you took out the 364 days in between. You know what it would be like? Let me get my alarm ready. Oh, it's Groundhog Day.
I saw that meme going around on Twitter also. I was like, why is that happening? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, Groundhog Day.
And wasn't it actually Groundhog Day pretty recently?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, actually it was. But
I think he predicted a longer winter.
I think you're right. Well, it's going to be a longer winter for the Bucs now.
Yeah, I think.
But yeah, so Tom Brady retires again. And of course, the way that he did it this time, he was on a beach, basically like selfie style video. He must have done it on a phone. You hear all the obnoxious noise. He's sitting on a beach on the sand because, you know, all us unprivileged people can't do that. And basically says, I'm retiring for real. And he's like, you only get to use up your emotional retirement speech once. I'm like, really? Really? Does anyone care? Does anyone care that Tom Brady retired at this point? Do you?
See, here's the thing. I do to a certain degree because, I mean, it pretty much is the end of the era. I mean, all the great quarterbacks that we grew up with are now pretty much gone. But at the same time, you're like, okay, old man, just get out.
I have a fun fact for you, by the way. Yes, I'm stealing your mojo right here.
Role reversal. I like it. Let's hear it.
And it's actually an interesting fun fact because it includes another professional sport with Tom Brady. So Tom Brady was the last active Montreal Expo to be around.
Yes, I knew that.
So yes, I just blew people's minds right there.
By the way, do you want me to? I'm sorry, but you know I kind of have to one up you with that fun fact.
Go ahead.
If you do the math, you divide his career by 3, and we're gonna use say week 2, 2001 as the cutoff because if Tom Brady had 6 total passing yards in 2000, then did it really happen? Got to use the Zen rule on you. But starting week 2, 2001, and then you ended at like after the perfect season, then every 7 seasons, so forth, because he started exactly 21 years.
Right.
Divide all of those by 3, then you know what you get?
Well, we talked about this, but yes, 3 Hall of Fame careers.
3 miniature Hall of Fame careers, yes.
Which is crazy when you think about it.
Isn't it?
I mean, well, of course, I stated the master of the obvious when we were talking yesterday. Well, 7 Super Bowl rings. No one's catching that. Of course, people are going to say, Patrick Mahomes will get 7 rings. All right. Can we like couch that for now? Because
I'm sorry, but didn't Tom Brady beat Patrick Mahomes in 2 big games?
Yes.
He also lost to 43-year-old Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Right. Exactly.
Here's the argument right there.
So people need to all right, well, first of all, you can't say he's going to win 7 Super Bowls. So winning 1 was tough. If he wins this year, I said this to Tom on Empty the Bench the other day, then he's got to be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame if he wins 2 Super Bowls.
I think he already might be, but that's besides the point.
But it's like automatic, pretty much. Because winning 1 Super Bowl is hard. If you win multiple Super Bowls, that's a given.
Well, if you win one Super Bowl and year after year, you're among the top 5 quarterbacks and you've won an MVP along the way, then I think the people at the Hall of Fame might want to start building that bust. You know what I mean?
I mean, the one guy that I'm going to be interested in watching, since we're talking about whether it's not necessarily Super Bowls, Joe Burrow, eventually down the line, say 10 years down the line, they're a first place team for a long time. They go to a bunch of championship games, but they can't get over the hype, and they can't win.
Mhm.
So does that fall under? So say he wins, let's say he wins like 2 MVP awards in that 10-year span. Are you saying that technically he could be a Hall of Famer if he doesn't win a Super Bowl? If he's a first place team, they're constantly going to the championship round, and he's got 2 MVPs?
Yeah, I think you could definitely make that case, because if year after year you're among the league's elite and you have like a Super Bowl or 2, then yeah, that's pretty much enough to get you into the Hall of Fame. And let me put it this way. Was Eli Manning necessarily elite in the group of quarterbacks that I mentioned?
No.
Not really. I mean, look, as much as I'm probably one of the bigger Eli Manning fans you'll meet, and there's plenty of them. With that being said, he also was among the leaders in passing yards, in touchdowns. He led the Giants to 2 Super Bowls, and ultimately that's why he's going to go in the Hall of Fame.
And I agree with you. First of all, even though Eli was not elite, Eli had the clutch gene in the fourth quarter that most quarterbacks didn't have. I mean, I forgot which season it was where he led the league in fourth quarter clutch comebacks. It was one of the Super Bowl years.
It was 2011.
Oh, was that?
I remember that team. I remember that season better than what I had for breakfast.
And I just remember watching those games, and I'm like, you knew as soon as he got the ball back, like they were going to win in the fourth quarter.
He was the MVP of that season, and if the Giants lost any one of those regular season games, we wouldn't even be talking about him winning that second Super Bowl. And who knows if we're even talking about him as a Hall of Famer.
And that's the point I want to bring up, that you were saying that just because you don't win or that you're not elite doesn't mean you can't be a Hall of Famer or you can't be a really good athlete or player. Now, I think in other sports it's different. So like in MLB, I think you get away with more of having a good career as opposed to being elite. Because we talk about the magic numbers in a lot of the sports. 3,000 hits in baseball, 500 home runs in baseball. There's really no milestone, so to speak, that the NFL Hall of Fame looks at. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They look more at the resume. The MLB Hall of Fame doesn't care if you won a World Series.
The voters just count on their fingers for the most part.
Right. And that's what's so weird about it. In Canton, if you don't win a Super Bowl, sometimes they won't even look at you. Sometimes. I don't know.
The exceptions would be Dan Marino, but Dan Marino was also among the league's elite quarterbacks. So that's why he's like one of the exceptions to the rule. And you would probably say the same thing about guys like Dan Fouts and Warren Moon,
who had really good careers. They always put up the numbers. They just never. Sometimes you just have bad luck with the team you're on. You don't win.
Phillip Rivers, on the other hand, I would say is in the Hall of Very Good.
Right. I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame. I don't know.
Like I said, Hall of
Very Good. Hall of Good or Hall of Very Good. I mean, it's all preference.
Which I would also put Matt Ryan and Matthew Stafford in, by the way.
Well, Matt Stafford has a Super Bowl, so I guess you could put him above, because technically he's got a Super Bowl over Matt Ryan. Or
he does, but we would not be having that. If you look at his numbers, look past that Super Bowl, compare him to Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan has an MVP.
I mean, he also has a embarrassing comeback up by the Patriots on his resume also.
Not that that's really his fault, but yeah.
No, it's not his fault, but it looks bad. But like I said, Tom Brady has both sides of it. He's got the numbers. He's got the elite quarterback rank. I think from Tom did a minute on it Johnny did a minute on it where he basically leads like most categories offensively. So, like, there's nothing you can't say about Tom Brady. If Tom Brady's not unanimous, I'm going to go down to Canton and knock the door down myself.
Yeah, no, can I do a reenaction of the meeting for the Hall of Fame guys?
Yes.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
we're the selection committee. Let's take a look at the list. Oh, Tom Brady, is he in? Yes. Okay. Debate over.
It's a good point. I mean, the one that I can't stand, and again, it's different for baseball than it is for when Derek Jeter stupidly didn't get the one vote. I mean,
at the end of the day, who cares? He's going in the Hall of Fame. It's a shoe-in.
It's a shoe-in. Tom Brady is automatic as automatic can be. And now we have to deal with the drama of how is he going to sound in the booth.
I'm sure he'll probably have that like good novelty as like the breath of fresh air, but hopefully he doesn't turn out to be like Tony Romo, who
oh God. Please tell me
he's gotten annoying very quickly, Tony Romo.
Please tell me you saw the almost bad word he almost said during the broadcast.
Oh, I don't know, Jim.
Tom had that same reaction when I said that the other night. But, I mean, really? You almost said the N-word during a broadcast? What is wrong with you, Tony Romo?
What also doesn't make sense was he was like, well, I remember back in the early days where they were where Michael Jordan was being compared to Clyde Drexler. Idiot, since when?
Yeah, I've never heard that.
No. Michael Jordan, as soon as he won that first title, you already knew he pretty much was entering
elite status.
Territory.
Elite status.
Oh, forget elite status. GOAT territory.
Well, GOAT, but yes.
But he was basically saying that about Burrow and Mahomes, but they're both going to be a rivalry for years to come. That's totally different, you moron.
And just to try to put a bow on the Tom Brady. I mean, you could spend 3 hours on Tom Brady breaking down his career.
Let me mention this too.
Okay.
If you look at the team that had the best winning percentage over a 10-year span, it's the Patriots.
I was going to say it has to be the Patriots because the amount of winning Tom Brady did.
I didn't finish. There are probably at least 2 or 3 other 10-year stretches where the Patriots had such a high winning percentage too.
I'm
talking like 2004 to 2013 ish, or 2003 to 2012, or 2010 and 2019. It's interchangeable.
I was going to say, like, his stats never really fell off until like the last couple of years. I mean, now
this year was the only year his stats really fell off.
Well, he just looks like he was afraid to get hit, and that's why he had to retire.
Or maybe 2019, but 2019 was by far the weakest roster that Bill Belichick assembled.
The weird thing,
team he was with.
The weird thing is, and I said this on ETB, I'll say it here, that Brady should have retired after he won the Super Bowl with the Bucs. That's when he should have retired, and he should have walked off into the sunset and said, I'm done.
A la Otto Graham with the Cleveland Browns in 1955. And Otto Graham made it to a championship every single year of his career.
That's insane. How many years did he play?
1946 to 1955. Now, granted, Otto Graham retired at an earlier age.
But that's insane. Is that like a record?
Well, technically, he's tied for most championship appearances with Thomas, Edward, Patrick Brady, or I think Patrick and Edward might.
Well, I'm talking about consecutive. You said.
Yeah.
Talk about elite status going to the Super Bowl that many years in a row.
Well, no, it was actually the first 4 years the Browns were in existence, they were in the All-American Football Conference, and then they merged with the NFL. But you get the point. They were pretty dominant during the years where Otto Graham was the quarterback. Right.
Now, I'm sure we're going to get all these discussions about Tom Brady and is he going to come back? The joke I made, by the way, is wait until 40 days from now and see if he comes back. Now, do you believe he's gone for good?
This time, Yeah, I think this time he probably is, because the reason I say that is because, number one, he's getting up there in age. Like, you knew a good thing couldn't really last forever. And number two, um, I think he really needed to have. It's the same as Brett Favre. Like, I think he needed to have a really bad year to be convinced. Oh, maybe it's time to hang it up.
It must stink for him to go out on as bad a year that he
Although,
had.
in fairness, I think Brett Favre ended it worse.
Yeah, you're right. He
Because
had
he had the injury that practically halted his consecutive games started. Tom Brady didn't have any such injury problem. He just had a dysfunctional team with a classic example of a head coach that is a good coordinator, not so much head coaching material.
you're talking about
Todd Bowles.
Todd Bowles. Yeah.
Mr. Mosby.
Ugh.
How many doesn't look like Mr. Phil Lewis from Sweet Life?
That's so funny that you said that.
Tell me I'm wrong though. Like, they
You're
totally
not wrong. But I'm not a big Todd Bowles fan, and I should know that from being in Jets territory.
and he's gonna lose his job in a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, because you have Bruce Arians lurking in the front office. Which, by the way, why the hell did they keep Bruce Arians around for no reason? I don't understand.
I mean, that's the thing with the Buccaneers. Every time they have like a bit of success, it never lasts, and then they're going to be back to, like, I don't know if I want to say irrelevance, but like mediocrity.
I mean, basically what happened was they put all their eggs in the Tom Brady basket. That's what they did.
Like and I'm going to talk about this later because it's going to be more relevant to another bit of breaking news that we're going to discuss. It's kind of like how they put their eggs in the Chucky basket in 2002.
It's a good point. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that's pretty much. So Tom Brady retires. I think we finally can move on from the saga. By the way, didn't he say he really wanted to play until he was 45?
I think he said he wanted to play till he was 50, but like,
that was a stretch.
The fact of the matter is, like, only George Blanda plays until he's 50, and George Blanda was a kicker at the end of his career.
Wasn't there a pitcher who played until he was 50?
Are you talking about Satchel Paige?
Yeah, Satchel Paige. Yeah.
Well, he came back when he was in his late 50s with Kansas City Athletics.
He was the one with the weird wind-up, right?
Yeah, I think so. He didn't have a very long MLB career, but he literally came back because he was still somehow in good shape and he wanted to, like, get a chance at major league experience.
Well, it was either that or Bartolo Colon.
No, it's Satchel Paige.
No. I'm joking. I'm saying Bartolo Colon lasted way longer than he should have in baseball too.
Oh yeah.
Well, he had a little help though, which he got caught for. But anyway, let's move on to the big headline of the week. According to Adam Schefter, Saints and Broncos are finalizing compensation. Well, they have, in return for Sean Payton, clearing the way for Payton to sign with the Broncos to become the next head coach. Now, I don't know how to react besides playing this. I mean, it is a giant circus. Sorry. I mean, like...
My reaction is simply this. Why? You left the Saints on your own terms, and, for good reason. No, like, they were in a decline. He knew they were headed towards a bad path, so he figured, why not spend a year as an analyst with Fox Sports? And
he's a good analyst, by the way, too.
Yeah, he is. And you know what? It's a fairly easy job compared to coaching. And, I think a smart and a sensible, normal person in that situation would probably say, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to do this again. I'm going to keep this cushy job with Fox Sports so that, again, no more stress. I'm getting up there in years. I don't have to worry about anything.
Probably making good money, by the way, too, from Fox.
Not Sean Payton, though. And what makes this really surprising is if you look at all the teams that are like in need of a new coaches, name one that's really desirable.
Well, there's one place that I brought up that really didn't have a coaching vacancy, if you know what I mean, but he should have gone there and been the head coach. But there's a certain rich owner that was too cheap to let go of the coach that sucked this year, if you know what I mean.
Are you talking about the Raiders?
Well, no, that's one place, but I was the Mr. Spanos and the Chargers.
Oh yeah, no, he would have been a perfect fit for the Chargers. That would have been the team to go to, but you go to the Broncos. I mean, look, do I think the Broncos are going to be any worse than they were this past year? No. Like
last year was the worst of the worst.
I would say that was about as rock bottom as you can get with a quarterback who you thought you were going to get elite numbers from. But instead, you're not only going to be on a team with a quarterback in his mid-30s who you can't get rid of, but you also decided, I'm going to take on this challenge without any picks.
Well, we all know whose fault that is. That's the Broncos ownership fault.
Well, yeah, but like
they were so desperate for a quarterback, by the way, Denver, that they went to Seattle and basically said, "Take our whole team." That's what they said.
The whole team. They just gave them a lot of picks.
No, but I'm saying they basically said, "Take whatever you want. Good, just take it. We don't care." And the worst part is, like, people are asking the question, and I'm sure you were about to ask it as well. Why the Broncos? I'll tell you why the Broncos.
Well, yeah, because they have a new ownership, and that's the Walmart guys, and they are filthy rich.
The Walmart family is as filthy rich as you could possibly be. Maybe up there with Amazon. The projected contract that they were saying for Payton, excuse me, was $20 million a year over 5 years. So $100 million over 5 years. Think about that for a coach.
And we also have to ask ourselves this: do we think he is going to outlast that contract? And I would say that the answer is a resounding no.
There's no way he's lasting that contract. I mean,
you know what that means? Severance!
Severance! That's got to be a banner.
Lots of severance.
That's got to be a banner. I mean, because now it's become part of the show.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. You knew that was coming. You just knew that was coming out of my mouth. And now, Nick.
Yeah.
You mentioned trades with head coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to get back to the John Gruden example.
Oh, I forgot about that one. You're right.
Even though the Raiders did trade him to the Buccaneers and that helped them win the Super Bowl, I'm not 100% sure that the Buccaneers really won that trade. And you want to know why I say that?
Why?
You know how many playoff games John Gruden has won since then?
0.
You would happen to be correct.
That's bad.
Would say
that's bad. I mean,
he has won 0 playoff games since then. And can we be honest? That Buccaneers team was really Tony Dungy should have been able to stick around and win that Super Bowl. He built that team essentially.
I mean, Tony Dungy will always be a better coach than John Gruden in my book forever.
I mean, was it the worst thing in the world for the NFL? No, because I mean, you got to put him with the Colts, but I also think he had some bad losses with the Colts too. But that's the point.
And you know what? Like, people give John Gruden far too much credit for like that he's this big name guy and he deserves all the accolades. He won 1 Super Bowl. 1 Super Bowl.
Playoff games since then?
0. A goose egg. I mean,
Although I do have a big what if with regards to John Gruden's career.
okay.
What if there was no tuck rule?
Oh, that's interesting too.
And I think it was Greg Biekert was the guy who recovered the fumble.
Yes.
What if Greg Biekert recovers the fumble and there is no such thing as a tuck rule? Because then John Gruden probably keeps his job there. The Raiders, they probably could have beaten the Steelers, so maybe they're in the Super Bowl, and maybe his legacy looks a lot different.
Wow, imagine if he was still with the Raiders today.
So, yeah, no, or he might have left sooner, but he would have left them in a much better place. That is one of those what ifs. But anyways, back to coaching trades. That's the only one I can think of with regards to the NFL. And I know the Rangers actually traded for a head coach in the late 70s. And while Fred Sherrod did lead them to the Cup Finals, ultimately he didn't really last long. So I would say that trade, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head who the Rangers gave up that year, but they ended up losing that trade at the end of the day. So that didn't really work. Could maybe say the Red Sox won the trade when they got John Farrell because they did win a World Series, but John Farrell wasn't really a great manager.
Yeah, that was kind of questionable at best.
John Farrell, I know he won 2 division titles afterwards, but Alex Cora had a similar level of talent a year later, and that team ended up being such a buzzsaw that they dominated 108 games. So
I mean, not to say that he's a cheater as well.
Yeah, but John Farrell. My point is, John Farrell really wasn't that great of a
manager. Oh no, John Farrell was built up way higher than he was.
And I've talked to a number of Red Sox fans. I don't know how many that were legitimately upset when John Farrell got fired.
I would say probably 0.
Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting when they talk about trades with managers. I don't get it, but just to get into part 1B of this. So Denver traded a 2023 first-round pick and a 2024 second-rounder to the Saints for Payton and a 2024 third-rounder later as well. So they traded a first-rounder, a second-rounder, and a third-rounder for Payton.
All that for a head coach that you're going to be giving a lot of severance to.
I think, if I had to take a guess, I think he'll last 2 to 3 years.
How do you know that first-round pick isn't going to become valuable?
I agree with you totally.
How do you know that second or third rounder isn't going to become valuable? I mean,
and Denver already lost their pick to Seattle for the trade.
That's a lot of. You're really giving up more draft capital and doubling down on your mistake on your gamble with Russell Wilson.
Well, they just screwed themselves because remember they gave up the pick to Seattle in the trade.
Yes.
So now they have nothing in the first round.
I don't think they have a first rounder until another year where I'm going to be closer to 30.
Essentially. Hey, this actually comes out on my birthday. Now that I'm thinking about it officially.
Happy early birthday, by the way, and congrats to you on entering the Lundqvist year.
Oh, God, 30. Oy. But this trade was so weird to me. Like, Sean could have gone anywhere. He could have gone to any team he wanted. He was at no mercy of any team or ownership.
Did he really want to go to say, well, I think the Texans are probably the only worst choice he could have made personally.
Right. I mean, like I said, the Chargers in my book really were the spot. That really was the spot. He could have elevated Justin Herbert a ton, in my opinion. But I don't know. Spanos likes to piss people off, and it just didn't work out that way. Now, you ready for me to add a twist to this story even more?
Let's hear it.
So, you and I were talking about DeMeco Ryans. And so, originally, the Broncos were trying to get DeMeco Ryans as their head coach.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of didn't happen. Then the Texans and the Niners started talking, and they officially agreed to terms for them to be their new head coach. 6-year deal with the Texans for DeMeco Ryans. Now, the twist, which is involved in this, Denver tried to stop the deal before it was signed and tried to sign him again. And when it didn't go through and they couldn't get him, Plan B was Sean Payton. Direct words. That was direct words from all the insiders that Sean Payton was a plan B for the Broncos. My mind's blown.
Now that I think about it, maybe you would have been better off with DeMeco Ryans. Although the thing is, he's a defensive coach, so this day in the NFL, you know what happens when you hire defensive coaches. It doesn't really work as well.
Todd Bowles.
Yeah. What about the Bears? They hired a defensive coach, although I don't think Eberflus is that bad, but like
that team is in panic mode anyway, though, right now. That team is, and they're still trying to figure out Justin Fields.
Well, I know a team that would have been better off with him, but they just got boat raced by the Eagles. Gotta know a Dibbler.
God, I mean, I don't know. You have to admit this is quite a twist between these three parts.
Yes, and as far as the Texans with DeMeco Ryans, Nick, tell me again what the contract was.
It was a 6-year deal. I don't know the money, but it was. They didn't reveal the terms. It was a 6-year deal.
I would probably bet my house on, well, not literally, that he is not going to outlast that contract.
Hell no, he's not lasting that contract. The last two coaches before him lasted how long? A year or less?
1 year.
1 year.
Let's see. Lovie Smith 1 year, and Lovie Smith kind of got shafted. I would have maybe given him another year. David Culley 1 year, and then you had Romeo Crennel as the interim for the Bill O'Brien mess.
I don't even know isn't Bill O'Brien now where is he, in Alabama?
No, the Patriots just made him their new offensive coordinator.
Again? He's back in the NFL again? Ugh.
Again, he's a coach that's like decent as a coordinator, but not quite head coach material.
I know.
And the sad thing is, I think he might be one of the only Belichick assistants that really had some form of success.
You're right. And you have what's his name, who was the Lions head coach and ended up back in the Patriots staff.
Matt Patricia.
What a joke. Matt Patricia's been.
They made him and Joe Judge co-offensive coordinators.
Jeez, two guys I didn't think they would have right next to one another.
Fallen Empire much?
Yeah, really. By the way, speaking of play calling and all that stuff, the Cowboys parted ways with offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. And guess who's calling the plays?
Oh, boy. If you're a Cowboys fan, you should be absolutely in panic mode. You mean to tell me that the same guy who didn't do a great job with his timeouts and called a play that had no chance of succeeding at the end of that game against the 49ers, and the same person that doesn't run the ball on, like, what was it, 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4 in the game against Green Bay?
Yeah, it was like 3rd and 3.
They lost in overtime.
Yeah.
That was even worse than going for it on 4th down, because you had two good running backs you could have used to get that yardage. You're telling me this guy is trustworthy to call plays?
No, hell no. This guy can't even.
Now, I'm not saying Kellen Moore is necessarily a young offensive genius. I mean, he's probably had a hand in some of the bad calls that the Cowboys have made too, but he certainly can't be worse with the Chargers than what they had than Joe Lombardi. No,
I agree with you. Yeah. I was going to say though, Mike McCarthy can't even call his fast food order in on time. I mean, I know I've been making over empty the bench and now game on. I've been making horrible jokes about Mike McCarthy But Kellen Moore already has a new job. He is, guess what? With the Chargers. He is the offensive coordinator for the Chargers now.
I mean, hey, he's probably better off too. You go from Dak Prescott to Justin Herbert.
You know what? I know Staley stinks, but hey, maybe that opens Kellen Moore for a potential head coaching opportunity with the Chargers. Who knows?
That's like up the way he upgraded from quarterback. That's like going from coach to first class.
That's a good point. I mean, Dak Prescott's a joke. He's like the laughing stock of the league right now.
He is not. He is overrated. I have been saying for a while, he is not elite.
And they wasted what, 150 million on him?
Yep.
You think Jerry's regretting that now? Here at them Cowboys. Dak Prescott is the best quarterback in the NFL.
Oh, there's a lot that Jerry should be regretting.
Yeah, it's a good
point. There's a lot that he's regretting, and that's just one of them.
I mean, if I hear one more time out of Jerry Jones's mouth, well, Mike McCarthy, I want him to stay here for as long as he wants. No, you don't. You have no one else who wants the job. That's why.
Well, remember, he said the same thing about Jason Garrett all those years.
Oh, God. Yeah, now, where's Jason Garrett? At NBC?
The Giants thought him calling plays after, 10 years after not doing so for a long time would have been a good idea. That tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, that brilliant. Good job, Giants ownership. But it is what it is. The Cowboys are going to struggle forever because they can't get their personnel together. They can't get the quarterback to stay healthy. I'd rather have Cooper Rush at this point than Dak Prescott. And that's saying a lot, considering that Dak has, I guess, some ability to play football. I don't know. All right. Let's move around the coaching carousel a little bit here. This one confused me. Panthers named Frank Reich as new head coach. Now, what happened to Steve Wilkes, who turned that Panthers team around from garbage to almost winning the division?
I mean, to be fair, I don't think this is necessarily a terrible hire per se. I think Frank Reich could actually be a solid choice, but I agree with you. I hate when the interim coach does a better job turning the team around. I mean, for crying out loud, the Panthers actually had a must-win game that they had no business having late in the season.
I mean,
you're telling me Steve Wilkes didn't deserve another shot at a head coach? I mean, obviously you're not going to compete next year anyway. So, and the division is shit and it's more wide open now because no more Tom Brady. So what would have been the worst thing to happen if you had just kept Steve Wilkes around? But with that having been said, it's not like I think Frank Reich is a bad coach. I actually think the Panthers did okay with this hire. I mean, look, in an alternate universe, he's probably still coaching in Indianapolis, but I think the reason his tenure there went on a downturn was because, let's just say he ran out of luck.
Well, I was going to say also one of the worst owners in all the NFL also.
Well, actually, I wouldn't even just say Irsay was a factor. I think the fact that he had to deal with Chris Ballard as a GM didn't really help. And I mean, look, don't get me wrong, Chris Ballard's marginally better than who was that horrible young guy that kind of brought about Deflategate?
Oh, the former Colts GM, you mean?
Oh, Ryan Grigson.
Ryan Grigson, yeah.
That guy was horrible.
He was really bad.
And while Ballard did marginally better, look at his drafts and tell me how he's been helping the Colts. I'm surprised he still has a job.
Yeah. I mean, the problem that
not only that, I'm surprised Saturday still has a job at this point.
Well,
I hope that he keeps his job selfishly because it means that's one less. It means we don't have to. It means that I personally don't have to worry about losing either Wink or Kafka.
Kafka, yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just the problem that. Do you know what other problems people are having with Wilkes not being named the head coach?
I would imagine they're probably playing the race card.
So he would have been the only black head coach. So his agency, I didn't even know he had an agent because I don't know who has agents and who doesn't have agents anymore. His representation basically came out and said this is a disgrace, and they didn't even. Apparently, they did not even talk to Wilkes about the opportunity at all. They just went out and they hired Frank Reich.
Oh,
Yeah.
good Lord, that's not good.
But that's the problem. That's the history of the NFL. Why do you think they put the Rooney Rule in? Because of dumb things like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to give him an interview. You can't just say, oh, we're going out and hiring Frank Reich. That looks bad. Why do you think the enemy is not getting a job? Now, I don't know if that's just him or if it's something else, but who was the guy that brought the whole investigation against the league recently? Flores. I mean, look at that whole situation. Now, the Dolphins owner, who is slipping my mind at the moment,
Ross.
Ross, who owns whichever dumb casino out in Vegas, Hard Rock. He basically was what was he allegedly paying Flores to throw games? I mean, like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Why do we have such a race problem in the NFL? Do you know?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Wilkes had to be given an opportunity. This is bad. It looks bad on the NFL.
You know what the sad thing is? I feel like this story is kind of getting swept under the rug.
It is. It is getting swept under the rug because people don't realize how bad it actually looks. But
not good.
It's not good. All right. Now to move on from the hard news to the clown show. Nathaniel Hackett hired as the new Jets offensive coordinator. Now, I've said a lot of things about this already. I have said I know why they're doing it. The Jets have denied it, but I know why they're doing it. They think they're going to get Aaron Rodgers.
Is that really? I guess they're really trying to press their luck.
RELAX.
Yes, I caught the game show reference. Yes.
You know what I would say? That if they miss out on Aaron Rodgers, would you call that a whammy?
No, because I don't think that makes them better.
Well, no, I agree. I would say it's a whammy if they did get Aaron Rodgers.
Right. That's what I should have said. Yeah, that it would have been worse if they had gotten him. If instead of saying just we don't want to deal with that drama, you go over here. We're not dealing with you.
I wish I could play that vaudeville whammy sound effect.
God, I forgot to put that other one in here. Damn it.
Which one? The vaudeville.
The Family Guy one. Oh, I have other Family Guy ones. For some reason, I didn't put that one in here. Well, this one is accurate for now.
You suck.
Because Hackett sucks. The Jets, who are the Hall of Sucking right now, basically, hey, you know what? We're going to copy the Broncos. We brought in Hackett because we thought Aaron Rodgers was going to come to the Broncos. Well, guess what? They struck out. So now the Jets, who are always a year late on everything, oh, let's do it too. Let's bring him in because Aaron Rodgers will come to the Jets. No, he won't. There's other teams that are way better. I can think of at least 2 or 3 teams that would make more sense than the Jets. Could you think of at least 2 or 3 teams that Aaron Rodgers would be better on than the Jets?
Maybe.
I'll give you one that probably most people were not thinking of. The 49ers.
Ooh. I mean, now the 49ers, I think that could make sense because, I mean, now you probably aren't going to have Brock Purdy to start, and I would imagine they're going to probably try to give Trey Lance another shot.
Well, did you see the dumb press conference that Shanahan gave?
No, what was it?
Someone asked him about Garoppolo, and he said, well, we don't see him coming back here ever. Really, Shanahan? Really?
You're
That's
not
your...
supposed to reveal that out loud.
No kidding. He said, I don't see a situation where Garoppolo comes back here. Okay, well, you pretty much just annihilated everything inside your organization.
Can't do that.
I mean, I wouldn't trust Trey Lance right now, would you?
No.
And what's left? Brock Purdy's got a UCL tear. And now they're saying he needs Tommy John. So guess what that means for Brock Purdy? Done for the whole year. Oops. So that whole situation, I don't know. But what do you think about this with the Jets? Because I don't agree with this hire.
Well, again, maybe this is a guy who's better as a coordinator, but my thing is, what has he done beyond Green Bay? Let's be honest. This is a guy who many Jags fans said was responsible for them losing that game against the Patriots. Are we really sure that this guy is going to be the solution, whether it be because you're pressing your luck with Aaron Rodgers and whammying in the process, or whether it be you want to, I don't know, take a mulligan with Zach Wilson?
I have another way to sum this up.
Oh, who knew I could incorporate failed game show references into this hiring? But if Johnny were here, he would be doing this too.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a no bueno. The Jets. I can't even. I would suggest that they don't do that. And somehow, I guarantee you in the next week or two, we're going to see a headline: Aaron Rodgers traded to the New York Jets. And you're going to see Jets fans jumping up and down. Oh my God, we got a quarterback. No more Zach Wilson. Yay! Until they realize 2 to 3 weeks in when he starts causing all this drama, get him out! Get him out!
Or let's say 2 to 3 weeks when you realize what happened the last time you went out and got an aging legendary Packers quarterback.
The irony, if that actually happened. Well, Brett Favre had a lot of other issues, including alleged situations with a former Jets employee.
Oh, yes, that one.
But that's neither here nor there at this point.
Oh, you mean with his purple helmet or Adrian Peterson?
Well, that's another issue too.
Which he did, he was associated with after he left the Jets. But
right, yes. Brett Favre, let's put it this way. Brett Favre is not a shining star by any means.
Not a shining star. I think you're being too nice.
No, well, that was a joke. But including allegedly taking money from the state of Mississippi. But
Jerk.
I think we talked about that on this show many last year, probably.
Yeah, and I told you why I lost respect for him.
I lost respect for him a long time ago. But all right. One more thing. I saved it for last. You ready to go off on a certain owner in New York?
Oh, boy.
Here we go. James Dolan threatens to ban alcohol sales at MSG during games if facial technology gets blocked. Now, I'll set this up again. We did this on Empty the Bench, but I'll set it up here that James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks, the Rangers, Madison Square Garden, and so on and so forth, is using facial recognition technology to keep the lawyers out that are suing him for whatever case. I don't know what they're suing him for. But basically, if the lawyers come up with the facial recognition software, they're kicked out of the arena immediately. And the weird part is, this female lawyer with her young daughter, who I think is a Girl Scout, they showed up to see an on ice event at Madison Square Garden. They get to the security area. They use the facial recognition software, and they say, "Nope, you have to leave and take your daughter with you." And it caused a whole controversy to the point where the head of the Alcohol and Liquor Association, I don't know what they call it, basically said, "I don't like what you're doing. I'm threatening to pull your liquor license from Madison Square Garden." And basically, James Dolan did 2 interviews after that. The first one was with Fox 5 in New York, which you and I spoke about when we were in person. And he's going off on whoever. He picks up a piece of paper, like a flyer. It has the guy's picture, the guy's name, the email, and the phone number. And he shows it on camera and basically starts repeating the guy's name, the guy's phone number, the guy's email 5 or 6 times. Fox did not bleep it out or didn't blur it out. So it was all there in the public for everyone to see. Good job, James Dolan. Way to go.
What a jerk.
Well, shame on Fox for not blurring it.
Well, yeah, both can be wrong.
But James Dolan's is the major jerk here.
I wish he was never associated with either of the teams I follow.
Hey, you know what the worst part is? Like, the Rangers are on a high right now, right?
Well, yeah, they went 8-2-2 in the month of January. Like, everyone kept saying, "Oh, they're up and down. We need to fire Gallant." But like,
oh, I meant no. I meant like they're on their high for like being in territory to compete over the next couple of years.
They're higher than the Knicks, and they do have a legitimate championship window that's open for the next few years. But I do worry that championship window isn't going to be as long as we think, and the reason being is that, their core consists of Panarin, Zibanejad, and Kreider, all of whom are in their 30s. You know where this is going. Artemi Panarin, while he has a high point total, that gets inflated because usually when he scores points, those come in bunches. And he's a guy that really, whenever he scores like a goal that's meaningless, like, I think it's McCaffrey who came up with this term, one of my favorite Rangers bloggers, and I've met him multiple times at the Garden over the years. Sean McCaffrey, aka NYC the Mike on Twitter, he's the one that uses the term A-Rod goals, or he's used that about other players too, where like if you get a goal that like, either contributes to a blowout or is like the first goal when you're like losing by a lot. Whereas, remember when A-Rod would hit like stat padding home runs?
Yes. Oh, or Curtis Granderson would do that with the Mets.
Yeah, exactly. Like Panarin's like, everyone talks about like other players with bad contracts, and make no mistake, there are a good amount of veterans that aren't performing, but Panarin, I think, deserves just as much scrutiny because he's the one that has the high-end talent. Look what they signed him a lot of money for. But then again, there's always the possibility he could turn it up in the playoffs. But
just to
when you look at the Rangers as a whole, like, we have to remember after a year ago where they almost made it to the Cup Finals, they're going to be judged on what they do later on, not so much in like November, December, or January.
Right. And just to circle back, so basically what happened was, so they kicked the female lawyer and the Girl Scout daughter out, and it led to all those issues at the Fox 5 interview. And then the ironic part, and I think you know about this, James Dolan went on Carton and Roberts on WFAN in New York. Do you know what's kind of weird about that? He doesn't like radio interviews. He does not like radio interviews. So he obviously had a motive, And apparently he hates WFAN. So why did he go and do a 40 to 45-minute interview with Carton and Roberts?
I think because, he wanted to, like, be heard for a bit,
And so he goes in there, and Evan Roberts, one of the co-hosts, says, if you remove the liquor license, that's on you, nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. You remove the liquor license, that's on you. And the weird part is when he's sitting there, and they did video on this interview as well, he said to Evan and to Craig, he's like, I'll just remove the liquor license. I've been sober for 29 years. It doesn't bother me. First of all, how egotistical does that sound? Who cares if you're sober for 29 years? What does that have to do with people who go to the games? Nothing, right?
No.
And I'll tell you right now, if they remove liquor sales out of MSG, they're going to lose half the crowd.
Yeah.
And I'm not calling people alcoholics. Let me be very clear first. I'm just saying people go to the games, they want to have a drink, they want to have food. If you remove the liquor or the alcohol, people are just not going to show up.
Well, and it's going to be pretty bad for business, and it's not like you aren't charging like $15 for a good cup of beer, or what I like to call the grown-up sippy cups, if you know what I'm talking about.
I love that.
It's a little hole on the top.
Yes.
It's literally a grown-up sippy cup is what it is.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Better than using those plastic straws.
Oh, freaking plastic straws.
That's why I love the grown-up sippy cups.
Those are way better. But this whole situation is dumb. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. James Dolan is making more enemies than he did before. And I didn't think that was possible.
I'm afraid to say more because I don't want him to somehow find me and then ban me from going to Ranger games.
Okay, but he said something else during the interview, which you'll laugh at.
Oh, boy.
He said, I don't care if people say, like, I suck or the team stinks. But he said, do you remember the group that walked into Madison Square Garden with the James Dolan sucks t-shirts?
Yes.
And he basically threw them out of the arena. He said during the interview that I gave them a chance to cover up the shirts. What? I'm sorry, what?
Well, by the way, Nick, did you see this Amazon documentary called Orange and the Blues?
Yeah, I did.
Came out?
Yeah.
It's a really fascinating documentary.
It is. It is really good.
But you want to know what stood out to me?
What?
The scene where this guy, who looks like a Knicks version of me, but in his say 15 years from now, because he had glasses and the beard, but he's a big Knicks fan.
Yeah.
He basically told the story of how he practically got banned from a game, and he saw Dolan walking by and shouted, "You suck," like something mild.
Like what he's dealing with now.
Dolan overreacted, called him a drunk, and then
yes,
he chased him around like 33rd Street, and he had a security guy following him. But then by the time he lost out on the security guy, he still found a way to go inside and get to the game. But like, he tweeted about it, and then I'm pretty sure James Dolan ended up banning him for life.
See, and I asked you about the other situation that happened at Madison Square Garden also with Charles Oakley, where you can't say anything bad about James Dolan. If you even say his name, security's going after you.
Yeah, no, Charles Dolan, like, look, the only way I don't side with, or not Charles Dolan. Charles Dolan's actually his father, by the way.
Yes.
The only way I don't side with Oakley
Yeah.
is for the way he attacked that much smaller security guard. Like that
Well,
was
that was bad in every way, shape, or form. That was bad. But James
the way
Dolan's
that they
reaction
kicked
was
him out-
horrible.
the way that they just kicked him out. They said, and then afterwards they said, "Oh, Charles Oakley was one of the greats. We hope he gets help."
I remember that too. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like,
And I remember, it's funny. I was reading Our Last Season, the book by Harvey Ayrton. I think it's pronounced Ayrton. He talks about, it's kind of a combination about like his autobiography, somewhat the story of this lady, Michelle Musler, who had 45 years.
yes.
She had courtside seats for like 45 years, or
Wow.
I don't know if it was courtside seats, but like she eventually upgraded to the courtside, and she was a season ticket holder for pretty much the same amount of time since the championship drought started until her death. But
Damn, that's crazy.
the last season that she had her tickets, the last year she was really able to go to games before her health really started to decline, was when the Charles Oakley incident happened, and she saw the whole thing. The story was that Harvey saw what happened. He ran all the way down from the press box, which is now higher up than it was back then. And he basically asked her side. She's like, "I know what I saw. James Dolan pretty much caused this."
I'm not surprised. James Dolan causes every argument that happens with him.
And this is a woman who knew a lot of the inner workings of what would go on with the Knicks, like because of how close she was, and she could see and hear what would go on during like, discussions, like huddles, and which player was cursing. Like,
right.
He was like the eyes and ears, and Harvey credits her with a lot of his best work because he practically would see her before the games. Because like, remember they used to like work courtside, the press guys.
Right. I mean, you know what, James Dolan, like, you need.
Story, by the way. There's more to that story, by the way, but they do touch upon the Oakley incident.
Yes.
Even if you're not a Knick fan, you can really get an idea about the history of them and why they've had such a big downfall. Since
right. Totally. Because the Knicks have been, what is it, since 1975 or something?
I just said 73.
Oh, 73. Sorry. 73.
Well, I mean, there are fans that consider the 90s the new good old days, but the problem with
since their last win.
The problem with the 90s was they were poisoned by Michael Jordan, kind of.
Well, they had no chance with Michael Jordan.
And they were poisoned by John Starks turning into a bricklayer Game 7.
Jesus. But, like I said, James Dolan is his own worst enemy.
He really is. And, again, sorry if I keep getting back to that book with the tangent, but I really feel like it's kind of relevant.
No, it's very relevant. Yeah.
I finished that book literally right before the whole thing happened. There's a whole chapter called Dolan and the Death of Hope. And the other thing about Michelle was she had worked in corporate for many years. She pretty much knew how a guy with his James Dolan's personality operated. And the fact of the matter was she didn't necessarily want him to sell the team, or at least not for a while, but she wanted him to change like his personality, because she would notice he would have his shoulders shrugged, his face looking like this.
The smirk.
He didn't look very happy when he was watching the games, so to speak. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere but. And then Harvey told the story where he almost got ran over by Dolan, where Dolan like practically was running like this, and he nearly bull rushed him, walking with his head down.
Damn.
It's
crazy.
He story about Jerry Buss like taking him to a club in a limo to like contrast that.
Yes, I do remember that story too. But it's so ridiculous how he acts. And you know what? Like, I know you have a lot more at risk because you have tickets and you go to games. I could care less because I'm a Net fan. But to be honest, I wish.
Well, I go to Ranger games. I don't go to Knick games.
But you go to MSG. But you go to MSG
sometimes. But like
so. Right. But I'm just saying, like, that with me being a Net fan, I could care less what James Dolan does. I mean, but James Dolan should not be an owner of an NBA team. He takes it for granted. He even came out in the interview and said, I'm never selling the team. That he said, it's going to go to my kids. I'm never selling it.
You think the kids are going to be as interested?
No, hell no. I don't
By
think
the
they're
way,
that old.
let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you would do if somehow you were in a position to buy the Knicks and become their owner? What would you do?
Oh God, that's a loaded question.
Isn't it?
First I would try to fix the reputation with Knicks fans. Number one.
I think what I would do is I would make the Garden more like fan friendly. I would probably create more like fan stuff. Like there's some stuff the Rangers do, but like, I feel like there are ways that it can be improved.
I would also try and be friendly with the fans as opposed to
Like put a smile on your face. Don't give off the appearance of like, oh, I don't really want to be here.
right. But like I said, I would try to be friendly with the Knicks fans because again, they're keeping the building operating by buying the tickets that you're selling,
I'll tell you
including.
another thing I would do. I would retire Charles Oakley's number.
Yeah, obviously, I would.
I understand he's not a Hall of Famer, but 10 years he was the heart and soul of those teams.
Also, he needs to. For his sake, you apologize to all the bad relationships you caused with some of your alumni, or your.
I would welcome back Charles Oak. Well, I have my own idea for what I'd want to do with the Rangers. I would probably lower the ticket prices by not too much, but by like a fraction.
You got to lower the Knicks prices too; they're too high.
You got to lower both of them for sure. I would definitely have more alumni around, even though there are moments where I've met a good amount of the Rangers alumni, and they're great people, by the way. I met Adam Graves, Brian Mullen, Ron Greschner, just to name a few, and Colton Orr. They are all some of the nicest guys, the Rangers alumni. Definitely get the fans more engaged and maybe create like a good family pack discount or something like. That's the
problem.
About growing the game of hockey. Basketball, I don't think you need to grow as much because it's a fucking worldwide sport.
Right. But I was going to say that's the problem. A family of four can't afford to go to any professional sporting event anymore. They can't afford it. So you need to make tickets more affordable, especially in New York, where
how are you going to get new fans if families of four can't really afford to do it?
You can't. It's all the people with money that are going. Why do you think they're putting more suites into these new stadiums than regular seating? They want the corporate business. They could care less about the fan. That's what's unfortunate.
Again, I think I've said too much. I'm worried he's going to watch this video and ban me, but oh well.
If James Dolan somehow gets to this video, I will be impressed. That's what I'll say now. Because that means he cares far too much. Would you agree at least that he would be caring far too much?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. But that just about does it. We made it to the end of the episode.
Actually, if he does ban me, then the worst thing that can happen is I'm just going to plan road trips.
That's a good point. You'll just go watch him on the road.
Yep.
Or better yet, you'll just go to the Barclays Center instead.
Ugh, no.
Well, not for hockey. I've been to Barclays Center. It's nice.
It's better for basketball because I've been there I went there for a hockey game a while back. I didn't really have the best experience there.
Basketball is fun. I've been there a few times. It's fun. What was I going to say? But basically, that just about does it. Make sure you follow the show on social media at Game On ETB for Game On, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow him at Ranger Hanky 96. I'm at Morgasen Radio. Hopefully, Johnny will be back. And like I said, nope, he didn't disappear. He will be back. We do have our Super Bowl coverage coming up for the Empty the Bench Network, which will be Sunday. We haven't determined a time yet, but it will be live on Sunday at some point, getting the crew together to talk about the game. Eagles-Chiefs will be a good game this year. But otherwise, I think that's pretty much it. Make sure etbpodcast.com. Hank's going to have 2 blogs coming up fairly soon.
Still working on the other one, but there's one that I'm already pretty much done with, and that's the Bobby Hull legacy blog.
Yeah,
because the Tom Brady blog, there's a lot that I'm really thinking about.
So yeah, that blog is pretty much almost done being edited. That'll be up in either tonight or tomorrow. Well, when does this air? It'll be. You know what? Just pay attention to the social media post. You'll see when it goes up. But that, and you hopefully will have a Tom Brady blog, which that one you could spend forever. You could write an essay on Tom Brady.
Which is probably what it will be.
So Frank Indictor, I'm Nick Morgasen. This has been episode 41. We will see everybody for episode 42. We'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.